ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतम् पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिर्वोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयम् तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नम इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। नारायणं पद्मभुवं वसिष्ठं शक्तिं च तत्पुत्रपराशरं च व्यासं शुकं गौडपदं महान्तं गोविन्दयोगीन्द्रमथास्य शिष्यं श्रीशङ्कराचार्यमथास्य पद्मपादं च हस्तामलकं च शिष्यं तन्तोटकं वातिककारमन्यान् अस्मद्गुरून् सन्ततमानतोऽस्मि। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। परब्रह्मनिष्ठं स्वतो धर्मनिष्ठम् अहिंसैकनिष्ठं स्वशिष्यैः सुजुष्टं यतीनां वरिष्ठं गुरूणां गरिष्ठं दयानन्दरूपं मदाचार्यमीडे। नमः श्री परमार्थाय संसाराध्यासनाशिने श्रोत्रिय ब्रह्मनिष्ठाय तस्मै ब्रह्मविदे नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ तपोभिः क्षीणपापानां शान्तानां वीतरागिणां मुमुक्षूणामपेक्ष्योऽयम् आत्मबोधो विधीयते। I welcome you all to the 23rd class of the Atma Bodha series. We will read verses 53 to 55 that we covered in the last class and then proceed from there. Upadhivilayad Vishnu
Upadhivilayad Vishnu
Nirvishesham Vishen Munihi
Nirvisesham Vishen Munihi
Jale Jalam Viyad Vyomni
Jali Jalam Vyadvyomni
Tejas Tejasiva Yatha
Tejas Tejasiva Yatha
Yallabhanna Paro Labhaha
Yallabhanna Paro Labhaha
Yatsukhanna Param Sukham
Yatsukhanna Param Sukham
Yajnanat Na Param Jnanam
Yajnanat Naparam Jnanam
Tad Brahmetyavadharayet
Tadbrahmetyavadharayet
Yadrishtva Na Param Drishyam
Yadrishtva Naparam Drishyam
Yadbhutva Na Punarbhavaha
Yadbhutva na punarbhavaha
Yajñātvā Na Param Jñeyam
Yajñātva na param jneyam
Tad Brahmetyavadharayet.
Tadbrahmetyavadharayet.
In these verses, Bhagavad is talking about the Jnana Phalam, the benefit of this knowledge, and the glory of Brahman, the glory of Moksha, and the glory of Brahma Vidya. In the preceding verses, Bhagavad had talked about the Jnana Phalam of Jivan Muktihi, meaning liberation even when living. Who is this Jivan Muktaha? The one who has the knowledge that I am Brahman. So the one who has the knowledge and has assimilated the knowledge, even though he is associated with the upadhis, the body and the mind when living, he is still liberated. Because he knows that I as Brahman belong to a higher order of reality. And the upadhis are all in a lower order of reality. And therefore, the attributes of the upadhis, the changes in the upadhis, cannot affect me at all. Because anything that happens in a lower order of reality cannot touch the higher order of reality. As we have seen, a dent in the gold bangle cannot affect the gold. Mirage water can never wet the sand. And the dream can never affect the waker. Therefore, this person is not affected by any event that happens within the body-mind complex or in the external world. Well, both are mithya. And I am Satyam. He has this jnana. So he is the Jivan Muktaha. Now, subsequently, in verse 53, Bhagavad is talking about Videha Mukti. So, as long as he is a Jivan Muktaha, the Prarabdha sustains the body. The Prarabdha also affects the body and the mind. But he is not affected by Prarabdha. Because Prarabdha can only affect the body and mind upadhis. But when the Prarabdha is exhausted, the body must fall, just like the body of an Ajnani falls. There's no difference there. The difference is that when the Prarabdha of the Jnani is exhausted, the Jnani's body falls. At that point, by then the Sanchita is already destroyed. Sanchita karma is destroyed. How? It is like awakening from a dream. With the knowledge itself, the Sanchita karma, the entire bundle of Sanchita karma, which is all the karmas gathered through countless past janmas, all of those are destroyed. It is just like awakening from a dream. The actions done in the dream, the results of the actions will never affect the waker. It is very similar. The I has transitioned across order of realities. And when this I, the meaning of the word I in my mind transitions order of realities, just like I awaken from the dream to the status of the waker, I have transitioned across order of realities. Similarly, from this idea that I am this waker and with this body and mind in this Vyavaharika Jagat, when one transitions to this understanding that I am the Paramarthika Brahman, then all of the Sanchita karmas done by this jiva are destroyed. Then what happens to the Agami karma? The Agami karma are the new karmas that the jiva gains in this life. Now the Agami karma also accrues to the Karta. Jnani has understood that I am not the Karta at all. And therefore, the Jnani doesn't gain any Agami karma. The Agami karma that was gained prior to the Jnana. Prior to the Jnani was also an Ajnani. And at that time, whatever karmas were done, those Agami karmas, they join the Sanchita. Or they may bring about their result in this life. Some of them may bring about their result in this life. The rest joins Sanchita. The karmas that are done by the body mind after the jnanam, the results of those actions don't accrue to the jnani at all. So agami karma is avoided after the jnanam. Before the jnanam, the agami joins, either gets exhausted in this life or joins sanchita. Either way it is not there. So sanchita is destroyed. Agami is avoided. Prarabdha is exhausted during the fall of the body. And therefore, there is no further fuel to sustain the sukshma and karana sharira. Therefore, the upadhis disintegrate. That's what Bhagavad says, upadhi vilaya. The upadhis disintegrate. The sthula sharira merges into the sthula prapancha. The sukshma sharira merges into the sukshma prapancha. The karana sharira merges into the karana prapancha. And as we saw, the corresponding reflected consciousnesses in each of these upadhis also merge with the corresponding samashti reflected consciousness, samashti chidabhasa. And the question is, what happens to the original consciousness? As we said, the jiva is comprised of shariratrayam, the reflected consciousness, and the original consciousness. What happens to the original consciousness? We say the original consciousness that was enclosed within these upadhis merges with the total original consciousness, the total consciousness. But we say this is a bit like the pot space merging into the total space. It is a figurative merger, not a real merger involving some movement. Well, even when the pot was there, the pot space was never really separated from the total space. Even the walls of the pot are within space. And therefore, the pot was never really separating the total space and the pot space. It only seems to separate the pot space from the total space. And therefore, when the pot is destroyed, then the as though separation of the pot space from the total space is as though removed by an as though merger. So similarly, the original consciousness enclosed within quotes, within the upadhis, it is not actually separated from the total consciousness at all. It is only seemingly separated. And therefore, when these upadhis go away, then the enclosed consciousness that was as though separated from the total consciousness, that separation is as though removed by an as though merger. Bhagavad gives the examples of jale jalam, piyat vyomni, tejasi va yatha, exactly like the river merges into the ocean. Once the river water has merged into the ocean, it merges indistinguishably, nirvishesham vishayas. You cannot say the river water ends here and the ocean begins here. Or like the pot space merging into the total space, once the pot is destroyed, you cannot retrace where that pot space was. They have indistinguishably merged. And similarly, when there is two candles, then the light in between, the light from the two candles merges indistinguishably in between the two candles. But as we saw, we like the pot space example more than the others because it is the closest example, because it's a merger that doesn't involve any movement at all. It is a figurative merger. And since all of these karmas are exhausted, there is no punarjanma for this jnani jivan muktaha. And therefore, it is called videha muktihi. Then from the next verse onwards, Bhagavad is now talking about the glory of Brahman, glory of moksha, glory of this jnanam. Because he wants to inspire the student to take up with commitment the pursuit of Vedanta. Therefore, Bhagavad-pada says, Yallabhan na paro labha. As we saw, compared to which gain, there is no greater gain. Compared to the gain of moksha, there is no greater gain. As we saw in this, we are acknowledging that artha, kamaha, and dharmaha are also gains. They also give peace, security, and happiness. But the peace, security, and happiness that we obtain from artha, kamaha, and dharmaha is impermanent. On the other hand, moksha has permanent peace, security, and happiness, and therefore there is no greater gain. But as we saw, this can also be interpreted to mean that there is no other gain, really speaking, other than the gain of moksha. Because everything else cannot be considered to be a real gain at all. Why? Because the gain of artha, kamaha, and dharmaha is a gain of mithya, which is not really there at all. The second point we saw is that in the gain of artha, kamaha, and dharmaha, there is a lot of stress and strain involved. After a lot of stress and strain, one gets some fleeting moments of happiness. And therefore, again, this person is largely stressed out, constantly running around to gain purnatvam, not running around, not activity that emerges from purnatvam, but activity for the sake of purnatvam results in helplessness, anger, frustration, depression, all the symptoms of samsara. And therefore, again, compared to the fleeting moments of enjoyment that one may get, there is a lot of stress and strain, a lot of these symptoms of samsara involved, and therefore also they cannot really be called gains at all. The third reason we saw is that the gain of artha, kama, and dharma doesn't make any difference at all to the status of this person. He remains apurna. He was apurna before he gained the artha, kama, and dharma, and even with the gain of artha, kama, and dharma, he remains apurna. So he is effectively running, but he is standing exactly where he was. This is what we call running on a treadmill. Therefore, really speaking, he hasn't gained anything at all that he can write home about. He is still running on the same treadmill he was running countless janmas ago. Therefore, there is no other gain other than the gain of moksha, because only through the gain of moksha is there purnatva. Moksha is this purnatva. And none of these others brings one to this purnatva. And similarly, we saw yat sukhat na param sukham. Every other, compared to every other sukham, this moksha sukham, Brahmānanda, Ātmānanda, is a greater ananda. Because all the other sukhas, they have got dukkha mishritatvam. They are all mixed with sorrow. Sorrow in acquisition, sorrow in maintenance, and sorrow because one is depending on something that will eventually go away. But we also said this can also be taken to mean that there is really speaking no other sukham compared to Atma sukham. Because every other experiential happiness is a reflection of Ātmānanda only. If I am in a room with a lot of mirrors, and if my face is reflected in those mirrors, it is right to say that really speaking, there is no other face other than the original face. Everything else just happens to be a reflection. Therefore, there is no other sukham at all, really speaking. Only Atma sukham is really there. Atma is the only source of happiness. There is no other source of happiness. When yad jnanat na param jnanam, compared to which jnanam, there is no greater jnanam. Like we saw, every other jnanam keeps one as a limited pramata. The more I know about something, the more I know that I don't know a lot of things. On the other hand, once one knows Brahman, then everything else is as well known. And therefore, there is no greater jnanam compared to Brahma jnanam. But we can also take it as there is no jnanam at all other than Brahma jnanam. Because every other jnanam is a jnanam of mithya, which is not really there. It is exactly like seeing the rope as a snake. Eventually speaking, seeing the rope as a snake is not right knowledge. One has to see the rope as a rope. Without knowing as a rope as a rope, you may know whatever else. You may know the rope as something else. That cannot really be called knowledge at all. What is here is only Brahman, nothing else is really there. If I have not known that, and if I am knowing something else, then that really cannot be called knowledge at all. And then the second thing we saw is that any knowledge of mithya can never be conclusive, because any mithya is a product of Maya. We are probing into Maya. The more we probe into Maya, the more mysterious it becomes. And therefore, there cannot be any conclusion to knowledge regarding mithya vastu, regarding Maya. We cannot even say conclusively whether it is or it is not. Sad asadbhyam vilakshanam. It cannot be classified as Sat. It cannot be classified as Asat. It cannot be classified as existent. It cannot be classified as non-existent also. When we cannot even decide whether it is or whether it is not. Such a basic thing itself we cannot conclusively decide. And what else can we say about it? How can we say the rest of it is conclusive? So there cannot be any conclusive knowledge regarding Maya at all. There can be conclusive, final knowledge only about one entity, which is Brahman, the Satyam Brahman. Therefore, there is really speaking, only Brahma Jnanam is Jnanam. Everything else cannot be called Jnanam at all. And then Bhagavad Pada says, Yad drishtva na param drishyam, having seen which there is no greater sight. Having known which there is nothing greater to be known. Why? Because once one has known the limitless, everything else is limited. And yad bhutva na punarbhava. Having become which, there is no further becoming. Like we saw, the human being is constantly becoming something or the other. The human being has this conclusion that I am Apurnaha, and I cannot stand being Apurnaha, and therefore I have to do something about it. And what is the something that he is doing about it? He is rearranging the world. He is reconfiguring his body. He is reconfiguring his mind. He is Purnaha all the way. He is Purnaha already. He doesn't know that. But to gain this Purnatvam, he is just rearranging furniture. Furniture in his house. It is equivalent to that. Rearranging furniture in the body, rearranging furniture in the mind. So the child I, as we saw, the child I wants to become the high school graduate I. High school graduate I wants to become the college graduate I. College graduate I wants to become the employed I. The employed I wants to become the moneyed I. The moneyed I wants to become a house owner I. House owner I wants to become the married I. Married I wants to become the parent I. The parent I wants to become the parent-in-law I. Parent-in-law I wants to become the grandparent I. Or rearrangement of furniture at different levels, really speak. But none of this really makes him Purna, because his conclusion is there that I am a Purna. And then there is death. But death, as we saw, doesn't bring an end to this becoming, because he being a Purna, he has to take a Punarjanma. And then in that next janma, he again pursues the entire process of becoming. Then there is death again pursues this process of becoming, and therefore there is punarbhavaha, punarbhavaha, punarbhavaha. The only way this process of becoming can end is with the knowledge that I am already Purnaha. I don't need to become Purnaha. And how does this knowledge come? Through the study of Vedanta, through the Shabda Pramāṇa of Vedanta. Yad Bhutva, and therefore the knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. The knower of Brahman becomes Brahman because he was already Brahman, he just did not know it. With this knowledge, he just knows that I have always been Brahman. So having become Brahman, again become is in quotes, through knowledge, he has become Brahman. Having become Brahman, having understood that I am Purnaha, there is no further becoming for him. So nothing can improve limitlessness. Once one is limitless, what can one seek? What can one go after? What further can one try to become? So yad bhutva na punarbhavaha, yad jnatva na param jneyam. Having known which, there is nothing left to be known. Nothing left to be known. So this we said was a reference to the Chandogya Upanishad. Like we saw that Uddalaka asks Shvetaketu, so you have been in the Gurukulam for 12 years now. Did you ask for that knowledge, knowing which everything is as well known? Shvetaketu, as we said, he responded saying that, I don't think my teacher knew this. Is there something like this? And Bhagavad-pada there in his Bhashyam, he points out that Shvetaketu was a bit afraid that his father might send him to the Gurukulam again. so, so in order to avoid that possibility, he says that I don't think my teacher knew this. So if you know this, maybe you can teach me what this is. So then Uddalaka tells Shvetaketu that indeed there is such a knowledge, knowing which everything is as well known. Like when you know the material cause of things, then all the products, all the effects of that material cause are as well known. Like if I know gold, and all the gold ornaments are just namarupas of that material cause, they are also as well known because you have known essentially what they are. Similarly, Uddalaka gives the example of iron and then tools made of iron, including a nail cutter. He talks about a nail cutter. So we know that even in the days of the Upanishads, they had nail cutters. So he talks about the various products that are made from iron, and he says that once you have known iron, all those products are essentially known. And then he also talks about the clay and pots. Clay is a material cause. Once you've known clay, all the pots are just namarupas. They are as well known. Similarly, here in this creation, there is the ultimate material cause. And once you have known the ultimate material cause, everything is as well essentially known. Therefore, yat jnatva na param jneyam, there is nothing else left to be known, really speaking. We will go to our next verse today. Tiryagurdhvamadah purnam
तिर्यगोध्वमधः पूर्णम्
Satchidanandamadvayam
सच्चिदानन्दमद्वयम्
Anantam nityamekam yat
अनन्तं नित्यमेकं यत्
Tadbrahmetyavadharayet.
तद्ब्रह्मेत्यवधारयेत्.
So Bhagavad is repeating here in several verses, Tad Brahmetyavadharayet. Avadharayet, meaning Vijaniyat. May you know that. May you very well ascertain that through the study of Vedanta. May you know what? Tad Brahma iti avadharayet. May you know that Brahman, which is of such and such a nature that Bhagavad is talking about in all of these verses. So here he says, may you know that as Brahman. May I know what as Brahman? So he says, Yat tiryag urdhvam adha yat purnam. Yat tiryag urdhvam adha purnam. Meaning, tiryag means horizontal, the horizontal direction. Urdhvam means in the upward direction, and adhaha means in the downward direction. So that which is purnam in all these directions, meaning the directions don't limit this at all. Which means Brahman, which is all pervading, know that as Brahman. And Satchidanandam, which is of the nature of existence, Sat, of the nature of existence. And Chit, of the nature of consciousness. Ananda, limitless, which is limitless, full and complete. And Anantam, Anantam means limitless again, space-wise limitless, which is space-wise limitless. And Nityam, Nityam means time-wise limitless, which doesn't have a beginning or an end in time. Ekam, Ekam means it is one existence consciousness, one such chit. There is no other such chit. There is only one such chit that pervades the entire creation, entire Srishti. Advayam. Advayam meaning one that is without a second. Because there is only one Satyam. Just like in the world of gold ornaments, gold alone, really speaking, is. There is no second thing other than gold at all. So Ekam indicates one. Advayam indicates the only one. The only one, really speaking. So we saw Anantam. Anantam indicates space-wise limitlessness. Nityam indicates time-wise limitlessness. And Advayam indicates object-wise limitlessness. There is no second object that can limit Brahman at all, because that second object cannot even exist without Brahman. That second object, if at all we say second thing is there, it is mithya. It cannot be counted separately at all. So tad brahmetyavadharayet. Know this, know that which is tiryag urdhvam adh purnaha, which is all pervading, which is of the nature of Satchid and Ananda, which is Anantam, which is Nityam, which is not limited by space, not limited by time, which is Ekam, that which is one, and which is Advayam, that for which there is no second thing at all. Know that as Brahman. And we will go to the next verse. Atat vyavritti rupena
अतद्व्यावृत्तिरूपेण
वेदान्तैर्लक्ष्यते द्वयम्
वेदान्तैर्लक्ष्यते द्वयम्
अखण्डानन्दमेकं यत्
अखण्डानन्दमेकं यत्
तद्ब्रह्मेत्यवधारयेत्.
तद्ब्रह्मेत्यवधारयेत्.
Again, Bhagavad says Tat Brahma iti avadharayet. May you know that as Brahman. So may I know what as Brahman? Yat Vedantaihi lakshyate. That which is revealed by Vedanta, by all the Upanishads, that which is revealed by all the Upanishads. Why is it revealed? Why is Bhagavad Pada talking about only the Upanishads? Because we have seen that Brahman cannot be revealed, cannot be known through any of the other Pramāṇas. Through any of the Laukika Pramāṇas, Brahman cannot be known because it cannot be seen by the senses, cannot be perceived by the senses. Therefore, Pratyaksha is out of the door. And once Pratyaksha out of the door, all the other Pramāṇas that depend on Pratyaksha are out of the door. So Pratyaksha, Anumana, Arthapatti, Upamana, Anupalabdhi, these Laukika Pramāṇas are out of the door. Then what about Laukika Shabdas? As we have said, Laukika Shabdas are only carriers of knowledge obtained through these Laukika Pramāṇas. And therefore, all those volumes and volumes of books that have been written based upon knowledge gained through these Laukika Pramāṇas, they cannot reveal Brahman. Therefore, you take the greatest universities, so-called greatest universities, that youngsters are looking up to today. Even whether it be any of the Harvard, MIT, or whatever, or IIT, IIM, AIMS, or any of the law schools, so many engineering colleges, so many medical colleges, so many colleges related to economics, and so many other fields of material sciences. Whatever they are talking about there is all Laukika Shabdas. Those cannot reveal Brahman at all. Therefore, one has to come to the Vaidika Shabda Pramāṇa, which are not carriers of knowledge gained through the Laukika Pramāṇas, but the words themselves are the revealers of knowledge that cannot be gained through any other Pramāṇa at all. Therefore, Vedantaihi Lakshyate. Vedantaihi Lakshyate. Now, why does he use the word Lakshyate? So here we require some deliberation. Because Vedanta also has to use words. Words from the language. Now, why are words invented in a language? If we try to understand why words are invented, why words are there in any given language, because the words are talking about our experiences. Whatever we experience, the words are talking about. So there is a certain thing I see, a certain animal I see, I give it a certain name. There's a certain fruit I see, I give it a certain name. There's a certain tone I hear, I give it a certain name. There are certain things I touch, I give those things names. So whatever I perceive in this world, I give it certain names. Those names are the words. Therefore, these known words only reveal known objects. Known words only reveal known objects, qualities and attributes. And Brahman cannot be the direct meaning of any of these known words. All these known words are directly referring to something or the other in the world. So then what should we do? What should Vedanta do? Because any amount of words Vedanta uses will only talk about something or the other in the world because it's using words from the language. So should Vedanta then use unknown words? So should Vedanta say things like Gagabuga and Pogapuga and Malamula or something like that, right? Now you have jumped from the frying pan to fire. Yeah. The unknown words, using such unknown words is even worse because they don't communicate anything at all. So the problem that Vedanta has is that known words cannot directly communicate the meaning. No, known words are talking about known objects. Unknown words cannot communicate anything at all. Therefore, Vedanta has to use these words in an ingenious manner, so that the known words are used to communicate, not through the direct meaning of those words, but through the implied meaning. That's what the direct meaning of those words is, a vachyartha. Brahman can never be the vachyartha of any word. Therefore, from the vachyartha, I have to come to the implied meaning. The implied meaning is never the vachyartha of any word at all. Therefore, through that implied meaning, the communication happens. For example, Swamiji gives this example sometimes that there are two boys, and one of the relatives is saying that he is a bright boy. For example, if he says he is a bright boy, so then there's the words communicated something, right? In those words, some communication happened, which was directly communicated, that he is a bright boy. But without saying, he also said something else, which is that the other boy there is not as bright, or he is not a bright boy. That has been said without saying it. So this is the implied meaning of the words. And therefore, Vedanta has to use the known words only, but using the known words in such a way that the common limitations that are associated with that word are removed in the process. For example, even if we take the word Sat, the word Sat means is, asti, it is. So it is really referring to something is existent. So we say flower is, pot is, etc. Now we say Brahman is Sat. So if you were to take the meaning as in using the known word, right? If you were to just take the literal meaning of the word, the primary meaning of the word, then that would mean Brahman is like anything else, like the flower or the pot or whatever. Its existence also becomes a limited existence, because the flower is there for some time, the flower is not there tomorrow. The pot is there today, the pot is not there tomorrow. So I'm using the word Sat, which is there in the common vocabulary, but then in opposition with Anantam. The Upanishad says Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. So Satyam is used in connection with Ananta. Therefore, I understand that this is not this limited existence that we are talking about. So this is, in general, if we take the vachyartha, like pot is, flower is, etc., then there is the is. That is associated with the nama rupa of the pot and the flower. In case of the pot, there is the nama of the pot and the rupa of the pot, plus the is. In case of the flower, there is the nama of the flower, the name of the flower. There is a rupa, the form of the flower, plus the existence is. But as we have seen, we in our normal language have converted this existence into an adjective. We say the flower is existent, the pot is existent. That existence has been converted into an adjective of the noun that is the flower. Existent has been converted into an adjective of the noun that is the pot. So our normal understanding of existent, isness, is an adjective of a noun that is the nama rupa. This is how we understand everything. Like we say golden chain, golden bangle. The golden has become an adjective of the chain or the bangle, which is a noun. But we have to use the same word, but Vedanta says anantam. When it says anantam, then we are talking about the limitless existence. The existence is not a product, or property of any object. Existence is an independent principle that pervades every object and makes it exist. Existence is not limited by the boundaries of any object. It is not limited by the boundaries of any object. That's what Anantam is saying. And therefore, I understand that even though I say flower is, pot is, wall is, desk is, that isness is not an adjective of these nouns, but the isness is an independent principle that pervades the pot, the flower, the wall, the desk. It pervades all of it and makes each of those things exist. There is something like that. That is what the Shabda Pramāṇa of Vedanta is telling me. I cannot know this through any other Pramāṇa. Therefore, I come to the existence that is not limited by the boundaries of any object. So this is not limited by space. And this existence continues even after every object disintegrates, meaning that it is not limited by time also. So it is not limited by space, it is not limited by time. And because it pervades every object and makes it exist, it is not limited by any object also. So this is a limitless existence. So I'm using the word Sat. We use the word Sat from our common vocabulary, but in opposition with Anantam, we remove all the limitations associated with the word Sat. And this is how Vedanta communicates through the implied meaning. Through the implied meaning, what it wants to convey. And therefore, lakshyate. And how? Here, he takes a specific example. Atat vyavritti rupena, he says. Atat vyavritti rupena. So we have talked about, even in this Sat, we are negating the limitations. So there is always this process of negation involved in Vedanta. Negation of what is not, what it is not. It's only through that we can convey Brahman, but through the negation of what it is not. And therefore, he says atat. Here, atat means a tat. So tat here refers to the Atma Brahman. Tat refers to the Atma Brahman. You can take it to be Brahman because Brahman is tat pada vachya. But eventually they are both one and the same. So tat, we take it to be Brahman, which is the Atma. So atat, from the Jiva's point of view, refers to all the Anatma. Atat refers to all the Anatma, all the Anatma Namarupas, all the Anatma objects, all the Anatma attributes. So atat vyavritti means through the separation of all these Anatma Namarupas, attributes and objects. Atat vyavritti rupena. So by consistently negating everything which is other than tat. Have you seen why is a negation required? See, really speaking, there is nothing other than tat at all, because there is no second thing other than tat at all. But in the Jiva's mind, there has been a mix-up of the Atma and Anatma. The Atma and Anatma have been mixed up. So through this process of Viveka, one has to resolve this Atma Anatma mix-up before one can come to the Mahavakya, where one is told that this Atma is really Brahman. And Brahman is Satyam, and therefore there is no second thing other than Brahman, Atma at all. And therefore, this negation is done by Vedanta. Atat vyavritti rupena. So starting with the world, with the body, with the mind, everything drishyam is negated. So one may then ask that if you are negating everything, what is left? It looks like nothing is left. You have negated everything. To which we say that the one who is negating, the negator of everything, the witness, which is the witness of this nothingness, the one who is saying that there is really nothing, nothing else left. If I negate everything, the one who says that is still left. The witness of this nothingness, one who is negating everything else as negatable, the one who is negating is still left. And that drik is never the drishyam, and therefore that drik, that seer, that knower of everything can never be negated because it is never the drishyam. We can only negate the drishyam as atat. We can only negate the drishyam as atat, as not that. The one who is negating everything, the witness of all this, is the drik, who is never the drishyam, and therefore who can never be negated. That drik alone is left behind. So in this manner, atadvyavritti rupena vedantaihi lakshyate. Vedanta communicates through this negation of what is what it is not. And what does it reveal? What does Vedantaihi lakshyate? What does it reveal? Yat ekam, that which is one. That which is one, which is revealed by Vedanta. Know that as Brahman is what Bhagavad says. That which is one, meaning that this this drik that is left behind. Ultimately, through the Mahavakya, I know that the drik that is left behind after negating everything, this Ātmā is Brahman. And therefore, there is only one consciousness that pervades the entire Srishti. Yat Ekam. Therefore, Sajatiya Sambandha is not there. There is no other member of the species called consciousness. There's only one member of that species, if we can even call it a species. Usually you use the word species when there are multiple members of it. Here there is only one member. Therefore, it doesn't have any sambandha with any other member of that species. So sajatiya sambandha is not. And then Bhagavad Pada says, Yat Advayam. That which is Advayam, non-dual, is revealed. Because when this Ātmā is equated to Brahman, and Brahman is the Satyam, and therefore Brahman alone is. There is no second entity. And therefore, even this Vijatiya Sambandha is not. Vijatiya Sambandha is the Sambandha with another member, with a member of another species. But what is the other species other than Atma? It is all Anatma. It is all Mithya Maya. There cannot be any real connection between Satyam and Mithya. And therefore, this Vijatiya Sambandha is also not there. Then Bhagavad Pada says, Yat Akhandanandam, Akhandanandam. So there are two ways in which we can take it. One, we can take it as two separate revelations that it is Akhanda. Akhanda means it is partless. That Brahman is partless. It doesn't have any parts. It is homogeneous. And therefore, even Swagata Sambandha is not there. For example, if you take any entity which has parts, for example, a car. The car has got various parts like the engine and the coolant and the wheels and the chassis and all of this, the various windows and doors, steering wheel, brakes, etc. So we can talk about the relationship of the car with its parts. There's an avayava avayavi sambandha. But then here Brahman is partless. being partless, it doesn't have any swagata sambandha. There are only three kinds of sambandha that are really there. Jatiya sambandha, vijatiya sambandha, and swagata sambandha. You cannot talk about any other sambandha for any object. And since none of these sambandhas are there, Brahman is asangaha. Atma is asangaha, meaning that it is not connected to anything at all. Or we can take this as akhandananda, as that ananda, which is of the nature of ananda, that is akhanda, which cannot be divided, in terms of time, which never comes and goes. Akhandananda is the experienced ananda that has a beginning in time and an end in time. But this akhandananda has no beginning in time and no end in time. This is the nature of this Atma. So know this, know that which is akhandananda, know that as Brahman, which is revealed through the Shabdas of Vedanta. Vedantaihi lakshyate. We'll go to the next verse. Akhandanandarupasya
अखण्डानन्दरूपस्य
tasyanandalavashritaah
तस्यानन्दलवाश्रिताः
brahmadyastaratамyena
ब्रह्माद्यास्तारतम्येन
bhavantyanandinokhilāh.
भवन्त्यानन्दिनोऽखिलाः.
So here, Bhagavad-pada is elaborating on this Akhandananda. If we were to take the meaning as this Ātmānanda, which is the nature of Atma. So here, Bhagavad-pada in these verses is really picking up the messages from different Upanishads in Atma Bodha. And he is indirectly telling us that whatever Bhagavad-pada is communicating here is the essential message of the Upanishads. He's not talking about some, in Tamil you say Sonda Shastra. So he's not talking about something he has come up on his own. He's just communicating the message of the Upanishads. And all of these verses are very cleanly traceable to the different Upanishads. So here Bhagavad-pada is taking this message from the Taīttirīyopaniṣad, where Taīttirīyopaniṣad, there is a particular section in Brahmānandavalli which gives us an understanding of the various levels of experiential ananda and Ātmānanda. So we talked about these two types of anandas. One is this Bimbananda or Ātmānanda, which is the nature of the Atma. It never comes and goes. But then there is this ananda that we experience in the mind. That is Koshananda or Pratibimbananda, which is a reflection of the Atma. And that comes and goes. It has got gradation. It comes and goes. It depends upon the reflecting medium. And as we have seen in Tattva Bodha, Priya, Moda and Pramoda, it can have gradations. Priya, Moda and Pramoda. I am happy, I am happier, I am happiest. And this is what we also call the Anandamaya Kosha. And therefore it is Koshananda. So here, Bhagavad-pada is talking about these different gradations and what the source of those gradations is. Different source of the different levels of graded happiness is borrowed from the Taīttirīyopaniṣad. So if we see the first word of the fourth quarter, so I'll just split the words here roughly before proceeding. So Akhandananda Rupasya Tasya Anandalavashritaah Brahmadyaah Taratamyena Bhavanti Anandinah Akhilaah. So if we take the first word of the fourth quarter, Bhagavad says bhavanti. Bhavanti means they become. They become. The question is, who becomes? So he says, Akhilaha Brahmadyaha. So Akhila is the last word of the last quarter. And Brahmadyaha is the first word of the third quarter. Akhilaha Brahmadyaha Bhavanti. Meaning all these creatures, beginning from Brahma, Brahmadyaha, Akhilaha, they become. So starting from Chaturmukha Brahma, this Brahma here is not Brahman, it's Chaturmukha Brahma. So starting from Brahmāji, all the creatures, they become Akhilaha Brahmadyaha Bhavanti. What do they become? Anandinaha Bhavanti. Akhilaha Brahmadyaha Anandinaha Bhavanti. We see there is Tasyananda Lavashritaha Brahmadyaha Taratamyena Bhavanti Anandinaha Akhilaha. Anandinaha is in the last quarter. All these beings, starting from Chaturmukha Brahma, they become happy. Anandinaha Bhavanti. In what manner do they become happy? He says, Taratamyena. Last word, the third quarter. Taratamyena. Akhilaha Brahmadyaha Taratamyena Anandinaha Bhavanti. They become happy in a graded manner. Taratamya means gradations. So this experiential happiness, as we say, Bhagavad is talking about the experiential happiness. As it is reflected happiness, it depends on the reflecting media. So if the mind has got a lot of rajas and tamas, then the quality of that reflection is inferior. But if that mind has got more and more sattva, then the quality of the reflection also becomes superior. And therefore, this section in the Taīttirīyopaniṣad talks about these gradations, starting with Manushya Ananda, the Ananda of a Manushya. So it says, I'll just quote some of the words from the Taīttirīyopaniṣad. So it says, Yuva Syat Sadhu Yuva Adhyayaka. Yuva Syat Sadhu Yuva Adhyayaka. Ashishto Dridishto Balishtaha. Ashishto Dridishto Balishtaha. So Taīttirīya Upanishad is talking about a yuva, means a young human being, young person, young man here. Yuva Syat, Sadhu Yuva. Meaning is not just this young person who has a healthy body, but he is a Sadhu Yuva. Meaning one who is ethical, one who is refined, who is cultured. So it means he has a very healthy mind also. Because we see a lot of youth today, they have strong, healthy bodies. But what do they do with that body? They engage in partying, they engage in drinking, drugs, etc. He has got none of these. Sadhu you. Then what does he say? He is an adhyayakaha. Means he is also learned in the scriptures, learned in the Vedas and the Upanishads. And then he is ashishtaha, meaning that he is a dynamic youngster. Asishtaha, dridhishtaha. Dridhishtaha means he has a firm resolve. We see a lot of youth today who take up something and then pursue it for a few months and then say, I'm not interested in this or this. I don't want to pursue this. This is too difficult. This is not such a person. He has a firm resolve. That means if he has made a sankalpa, he pursues it to its very end. Dridishtaha and balishtaha, meaning he's got a strong body also. So, like Pujya Swamiji says, if there are two people who are fighting, and there's a mediator, the mediator gets involved in the fight. Then, if he is a weakling, right, if he's got this frail body, then those two people are fighting. One of them may just get a push, and this person is gone. It's not like that. He can get involved in this and stop the fight also. Balishta. And he's got the strong body, a very healthy mind. But then what if he has no wealth at all? Then there'll be a lot of struggle in his life. He cannot be happy just with a healthy body and a healthy mind. So he needs some resources also in order to live. Now this person, Taīttirīyopaniṣad says, Tasya iyam prithvi sarva vittasya purna syat. So tasya iyam prithvi iyam sarva vittasya purna prithvi tasya. Meaning the entire earth is his. He rules over this entire prithvi. Which means just imagine. And not just the entire prithvi means not just the land. The Upanishad says, Vittasya sarva vittasya purna prithvi tasya syat. So with all of its wealth, just imagine with you see, in the Gulf, if you look at some of these Gulf countries, reason they are rich is because they dug some holes in the ground and they found all this oil. That generated enormous wealth for the just the oil in this small fraction of Prithvi. Imagine all of the oil fields and all of the gold mines and all of the diamond mines. They're all his. He's ruling over everything. So such a human being the Upanishad takes. And it says, Sa eko manusha ananda. This is one unit. Upanishad says this is one unit of happiness. Of this person who's got everything, a strong body, a healthy mind, refined, cultured, learned in the Shastras, who's balishtaha, dridishtaha, has a firm resolve, and he rules over the entire earth with all of its wealth. One unit of happiness, the Upanishad says. And then the Upanishad talks about the levels of happiness starting from here. This is the lowest level of Upanishad that the Upanishad is concerning itself with. Then the Upanishad says, Hey Yeshatam Manusha Ananda. Then it talks about, let's imagine 100 units of this happiness that this one person has, one Manushya has, 100 times that happiness is that of the Manushya Gandharva. In the Manushya Gandharva Loka, and the being there has got 100 times this happiness. But then the Upanishad says, Shrotriyasya cha kama hatasya, Shrotriyasya cha akama hatasya. 100, which is 100 units of Manushya Ananda, is 1 unit of Manushya Gandharva's Ananda. That Manushya Gandharva's Ananda can be obtained in this loka itself. By whom? By the Shrotriyasya cha akama hatasya, by the one who is learned in the Shastras and who has Vairagya. Kama hata means one who is afflicted by kama. Akama hata means one who is not afflicted by desire. Means one who has a good amount of Vairagyam. And Shrotriya means one who is learned in the Shastras, meaning he has this Jnana. So with Jnanam and Vairagyam, one can obtain the Manushya Gandharvananda in this Manushya Loka itself. The Upanishad doesn't talk there. Then he doesn't stop there. Upanishad then mentions this Deva Gandharvananda, which is 100 times Manushya Gandharvananda. And that Deva Gandharvananda also one can obtain in this Manushya Loka with greater Vairagya. Greater Vairagyam, the Jnani can obtain with Manushya Gandharvananda, Deva Gandharvananda also. So now the Upanishad then goes, it talks about 10 levels, totally 11 levels of this Ananda. Starting with Manushyananda, Manushya Gandharvananda, Deva Gandharvananda, and then Pitrinam Ananda. Talks about the Pitriloka. And in that, the residents there, they enjoy 100 times Deva Gandharvananda. And then it talks about Ajana Janam Devanam Anandaha. In the Swargaloka. Swargaloka, the citizens of that Swargaloka, they enjoy 100 times Pitrinam Ananda. And then Karma Devanam Ananda. The Karma Devanam Ananda means one who has done the various karmas, the Vedic rituals. So he also goes to Swargaloka, but he is a Karma Deva there. And his Ananda is 100 times that of the normal citizens of Swargaloka. And then there's Devanam Ananda, one who attains the status of a Deva in Swargaloka. His Ananda 100 times that of Karma Devanam Ananda. And then he talks about Indrasya Ananda, who is the president of Swargaloka. His Ananda is 100 times the Ananda of all the Devas there. And then he talks about Brihaspatehe. Upanishad talks about Brihaspatehe Ananda, who is the guru of the Devas. His Ananda is 100 times that of Indra also. And then it talks about Prajapatehe Ananda. The Ananda of Prajapati is 100 times that of Brihaspati. And then he talks about Brahma's Ananda, Chaturmukha Brahma's Ananda is 100 times that of Prajapati. These are the 11 levels of Ananda. So if you look at Brahma's Chaturmukha Brahma's Ananda, that is 100 to the power of 10 times Manushyananda. It means 1 followed by 20 zeros. That multiplied by this Manushyananda that we saw in the very beginning, that is the Ananda of Brahmaji or Chaturmukha Brahma. But the Upanishad in each of these stages adds this Shrotriyasya cha akama hatasya, means this person with greater and greater Vairagya. This Jnani with greater and greater Vairagyam in this Manushya Loka can even obtain this reflected Ananda that belongs to Chaturmukha Brahmaji. But so there are all these gradations in the Ananda. Taha Akhilaha Brahmadyaha Taratamyena Anandinaha Bhavanti. There are all these gradations. But then how does this compare to Ātmānanda? Now we haven't even touched Ātmānanda as yet. We have only talked about reflected Anandas and their gradations. How does this compare to Ātmānanda? He says, Ananda Lavashritaha. So all of these individuals that we talked about, all of these jivas that we talked about, including the devas, etc., they are their Ananda is just dependent on a fraction of the Ananda. Lavashritaha, Ananda Lava. Lava means fraction. So it's a fraction of this Ananda, says Bhagavad Pada. Whose Ananda? Tasya Akhandananda Rupasya. So it's a fraction of this Akhandananda, that is the nature of the Ātmā, that is the nature of this Brahma. So if we imagine there's the sun, and then there are a lot of plants. On every plant there are leaves, and on each of the leaves there are dewdrops. Some dewdrops are really, really tiny, some dewdrops are large. So you can say that there's a reflection of the sun in each of these dewdrops. There's a reflection of the sun, very small reflection of the sun, compared to that 100 times, compared to that 100 times bigger reflection is there. And then there is even a puddle, there's a pond there. In the pond, there is 10 to the power of 20 times bigger reflection of the sun compared to this dewdrop. And if you compare all of this put together, how does this compare to the sun itself? These are all just tiny fractions compared to the sun. Lavashritaha tasya akhandananda rupasya lavashritaha. Because each one of them is still limited. You talk to any of them, as we saw, even if you talk to Indra, Indra has got his own insecurities. Therefore, the apurnatvam is still there. Whereas in Ātmānanda, this is Purnānanda. There is no trace of any apurnatvam at all. Moreover, this Atma is the only source of Ananda. So now if somebody says, okay, you have talked about such a wonderful Ātmānanda, how do I experience this Ātmānanda? How do I experience this Atma? So to that, Vedanta points out that this Ananda that you want to experience, you're saying, how do I experience this Ātmānanda? That is like the sugar asking, how do I experience sweetness? So to that sugar, what do we tell? The sugar says, I want to experience sweetness. So to that sugar, we would say, you are that very sweetness that you want to experience. Everything else, where you experience sweetness, why is it sweet? It is because of you. You are the one that is making everything sweet. So similarly, you are that Ātmānanda. You are the source of all this experiential happiness, all these different levels of gradation, right from this Manushyananda to Brahmanaha, Chaturmukha Brahmanaha Ananda. You are that source of that, all that Ananda. Therefore, you are it. You are that Ātmānanda. Therefore, you cannot get that Ātmānanda, but you need not get that Ātmānanda because you are that Ātmānanda. So Ātmānanda, this Ātmānanda can only be claimed as I am that Ātmānanda. This Ātmānanda is not an experiential Ananda. If it becomes an experiential Ananda, it will become limited. No matter what the heights of this experiential Ananda is. We have talked about the highest experiential Ananda, which is the Ananda of Chaturmukha Brahma. But even that is limited compared to the Ātmānanda. Therefore, the moment you experience it, it becomes limited. This limitless Ātmānanda, you are that. Because you are that, it can never become. You are the Drik. You are the Drik. The Drik can never become the Drishyam. If it becomes a Drishyam, it becomes limited. Therefore, the Ātmānanda can only be claimed as I am that Ātmānanda through knowledge. We'll go to the next verse also. Tadyuktam akhilam vastu.
Tadyuktam akhilam vastu
Vyavaharastadhanvitaha.
vyavaharastadhanvitaha
Tasmat sarvagatam brahma.
tasmat sarvagatam brahma
Shire sarpirivakhile.
kshire sarpirivakhile.
Again, this portion that Bhagavad is talking about is also extracted from the Upanishads. There is a similar portion in the Mundaka Upanishad. Here Bhagavad is saying, Tadyuktam akhilam vastu. I mean, every object is pervaded by Brahman. Vyavaharaha tadanvitaha. Every transaction, every vyavahara in this world is also associated with Brahman. Because you cannot handle any Namarupa without handling Brahman. Exactly like one cannot handle the pot without handling the clay. Now, it is like watching a movie. When we are watching the movie, we cannot watch the movie without watching the screen. But then our attention is taken up by the characters in the movie, and therefore we are so engrossed in the characters that we miss the screen entirely. So similarly, both the ignorant as well as the wise, whenever they are doing anything in the world, they are handling Brahman only. But the wise one knows that I am everywhere there is Brahman. Tadyuktam akhilam vastu vivaharas tadanvitaha. That everything is pervaded by Brahman, every vyavahara is associated with Brahman. The wise one knows this, but the ignorant person misses this entirely. Tasmat sarvagatam Brahma. So now imagine that we are in a dream. And in the dream, there is one person who is asking, so you are telling me about this waker. Where is the waker? So now in the dream, every object is pervaded by the waker. And whenever he is handling any object, like the pot in the dream, for example, he is handling the pot in the dream. Really speaking, he is handling the waker only because that pot in the dream is nothing but a thought in the waker's mind. Even he himself, there is a thought in the waker's mind. So whether he is handling his own body, whether he is handling the pot, whatever he is handling in the dream, he is handling the waker only. But now imagine that he says that I want to close my eyes and meditate. And I want to experience the waker. So yes, in a manner of saying he can do that. But really speaking, what he is thinking there is that somehow this waker is only within me. I will attain this waker if I close my eyes. What he is missing is that even when his eyes were open, whatever he is seeing was a waker only. Whatever he was handling was a waker. So whether you close your eyes, it is the waker. Whether you open your eyes also, it is the waker only. That is what Bhagavad is trying to tell us here. Tasmat sarvagatam Brahma. Brahman pervades everything here. So even with so one says, I want to realize Brahman. Bhagavad is pointing out that Brahman is everywhere. Even with your open eyes, whatever you are seeing is Brahman only. With your closed eyes also, whatever you experience, whatever you see is Brahman only. Brahman, tasmat sarvagatam Brahma. Right? Antar bahishcha sarvam vyapya narayana stitah, says the Purusha Sutta. That antar and bahihi is pervaded by Narayana. Everything is pervaded by Narayana. And Bhagavad gives the example here. Khile kshire sarpihi iva. So sarpiriva khile kshire. He split that as sarpihi iva akhile kshire. Akhile kshire sarpihi iva. So akhile kshire means in all the milk, in the entire milk. Sarpihi iva. Sarpihi means butter. So like butter pervades milk in its entirety. So we talk about the milky ocean where Narayana is. Since we just talked about Narayana, he is in this milky ocean. So now imagine that you are there, right? and you have ignored Narayana. You are now diving, you are scuba diving in this milky ocean. So if you are scuba diving in this milky ocean, then whether it is the back, your back, or your front, or your right, or your left, your top, or your below you see only milk. And this whatever milk you see, it is pervaded by butter. You never see this butter. This butter is not available to be seen. But if you take, you see, you take some in a small packet, you take some curd along with you, and then you convert this milk into curd, and then you churn it. Then you can get this butter out of this milk. And wherever this milk is, the butter is there. It is just not visible. That's the point Bhagavad is trying to make here. That it is there, it is just not visible. So similarly, Brahman pervades this entire world like butter pervades the milk. This entire world can be compared to this milk. The butter to Brahman. So, like butter pervades the milk everywhere, Brahman pervades this entire world. Entire milk-like world is pervaded by this butter-like Brahman. And just like I had to go through a process to extract this Brahman, this butter from the milk, similarly I have to go through a process to extract this Brahman from this world. That process is the Arani Mathanam that we talked about. It's the Mathanam of Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. Through that, I come to know Brahman. We'll stop here and continue in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om